More than an hour later, Zhao kicked open the door to my room. Seeing that I was safe and sound, he scratched his head. "I was worried you might do something drastic, so I came to check on you," he said. I glared at him and pursed my lips, not responding. After a few minutes, he cautiously asked, "Suiyan, Wanro just made a momentary mistake. We can all see how much that Ji Chuyan resembles. When she comes to her senses, will you give her another chance?" The unfinished sentence he left was probably also about how much Ji Chuyan resembled me in the past. I frowned slightly, not directly answering her question. "Siyuan, I want to go back and visit my grandmother," I said. "When my mom was pregnant with me, my dad's business encountered a crisis and was almost bankrupt. Later, they found a feng shui master to take a look, and the problem was traced back to my mom's pregnancy. The feng shui master said that I was born with a bad omen and would affect my dad's financial luck. But at that time, my mom was already in her 9th month of pregnancy and close to her due date. There was no way to not give birth to me. So, as soon as I was born, I was sent to my grandmother's house in the south. My grandmother named me Lin Suiyan, hoping that I would have peace every year. However, when I was 14, my grandmother passed away, leaving me alone. I once thought that at least I had Lily. Even if we weren't lovers, I would always be her first choice. That way, it seemed like it wasn't so bad. But reality slapped me hard in the face. It was the rainy season in the south, and the misty region was shrouded in a hazy curtain of rain. I held an umbrella and walked on the familiar bluestone path. At the end of the road stood an old 3-story building that had been my home for 14 years. My mom often said that my grandmother was an old stubborn lady. Even though her daughter married into a wealthy family, she still stubbornly stayed in the countryside, guarding her old house. But it was this stubborn old lady who gave me the happiest childhood. The rain was not heavy, and a vendor slowly rode a tricycle through the streets, shouting through a loudspeaker, "Fresh yanmei, fresh yanmei." A man from a small Western-style house nearby came out with an umbrella and stopped the vendor. Seeing me standing on the side of the road, he exclaimed in surprise, "Suiyan, why are you back here? It's not even the time for ancestor worship yet." I forced a smile and said, "I just felt homesick and came back to stay for a few days." He glanced at my suitcase and a hint of pity flashed through his eyes. "You poor child, why did you come back alone? Your grandmother's old house hasn't been lived in for so long, and it's probably very damp these days with the rain," he said. "Why don't you stay at our house for now? Your Een sister is not home often, so you can keep me company." With that, he reached out and grabbed my suitcase, leading me by the hand into the small Western-style house behind him. I was arranged to stay in her daughter Su Fanyin's room. Watching Uncle Su bustling around, I deeply understood the meaning of being unable to refuse someone's kindness. I tried to decline several times, but he only asked with a hint of sadness if I thought their house was too shabby, so I gave in. Su Fanyin's room was very clean and simple. The most eye-catching feature was a huge bookshelf filled with various books, models, and trophies. It perfectly matched her image as a top student from childhood to adulthood. Su Fanyin was 2 years older than me, and although we weren't very close, we weren't strangers either. Apart from growing up together, we were also alumni from the same top university in China. She was admitted through recommendation, while I benefited from being a local. Later in the evening, Lu Xiang called me. Through the phone, his voice sounded muffled. "Siyuan said you went back to the south." I replied with a hum. After a moment of silence, I heard him mumble, "Why didn't you tell me? I could have gone too to clear my mind." I had guessed Lu Xiang's feelings for Lily after we grew out of our awkward adolescence. Standing at the window, I looked out at the continuous drizzle. I didn't hesitate to reject him. "No, we're not suited for brotherly drama." Lu Xiang gritted his teeth, cursed, and hung up the phone abruptly. The rain fell all night, but surprisingly, the next day was sunny. I had planned to visit my grandmother's grave. However, when I opened the door, I bumped into Su Fanyin, who had just arrived after a long journey. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the fragrance of the soil and rustling the hem of her long dress. Over the years, she had transformed from a pure and innocent young girl into a graceful and elegant woman. Su Fanyin was slightly startled, and emotion surged in her eyes, but they were unreadable to me. "Long time no see," she said, her voice as melodious and pleasant as I remembered. I smiled at her. Long time no see. Since the owner of the room had returned, I no longer had a reason to stay. I bid farewell to Uncle Sue, and he frowned in contemplation for a moment. You haven't been back for so long, and your grandmother's old house is probably lacking in food and supplies. How about this, let Fanine move in with you, and she can take care of you, he suggested. Before I could refuse, Sue Fanine spoke up. Okay. I'll help you clean up the house first, she added.